You enjoying the AIIM Conference? Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. My name is Nick Inglis. I was the SharePoint program manager at AIIM. I'm recently switching over to our marketing department where I'll be the digital marketing specialist. So I've got a whole lot of information that I want to get to you in, well, a 30-minute at maximum session. So I hope you'll allow me to use my inner Bostonian and talk really, really quickly. That's what we do up there. So my session is called Collaborate or Die. Collaborate or die. Now, not you personally, clearly. But we're going to be talking about this company that was once the largest company, second only to the East India Trading Company of Britain. This was once the largest company on the face of the planet, A&P. And it's the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company is the full name, but eventually they just got shortened all the way down to A&P. And they are still around. I'm going to be relying heavily. There's this wonderful book that gives you the history of A&P. And Mark Levinson, he drew some great conclusions, but they were not the conclusions that I took from the book. Coming from an information management background and how organizations struggle with change, I didn't get the macro theme of the struggle for small business in America. I got the macro theme of here's a company that did some really amazing things, and then they did some really, really bad things. So what can we learn from that? So I'm going at it from a different angle entirely. So what is A&P? It was the world's first successful chain grocer. Chain grocer. So think about this as they were really the predecessor to companies like Walmart. They were low cost. They were high volume. They were cutthroat with their distributors. Not that Walmart's like that. But they were once the largest business in the US and second in the world. What happened to it? It is still around, although in a highly, highly diminished form. They're up in New York primarily, down in southeast New York primarily, around the New York City area. At last check, there were just over 300 stores remaining. At their peak, there were 16,000. So they've fallen quite a bit. They fell on hard times. They started in 1859, and I'm going to give you the quick version of the history of this company. They started in 1859. They were in a warehouse on the New York City wharfs in actually what was actually the leather tanning district. So they didn't even belong where they were. They sold tea, which was a high-priced commodity at the time, and they did mail-order tea, which was pretty innovative at that point. There were only a couple other competitors in that space, so it was pretty smart. They grew quickly. Their retail side grew by 63, so 4 years after their founding, they were already up to 5 stores, which I would love to be at a startup that is doing that well, that kind of growth, even today. By 1878, 15 years later, they were at 70, and A&P, they really are spreading because of the low-cost sales, and they did some crazy, groundbreaking marketing. Most of it was lying, but they did some really crazy, groundbreaking marketing where they said they had exclusive strains of fictitious coffee and fictitious sugars, and they give you stamps with every time you purchase. You could redeem it was like the first airline miles program. But they spread like crazy. Here's what they looked like back in the 1880s. They're really, really tiny. And why were they tiny? It wasn't like the grocery stores today. You had to carry your groceries home. So when you went to the grocery store, you went there every day, and you picked up 1 or 2 things that you were going to use right then. And you'd keep a couple things in the pantry just in case, but it was a different model back then. So they continued to grow. 1900, they had 400 stores. They're just explosive growth. By 1915, 15 years, they quadrupled in size. They went from 400 to 1,600. They started gaining a lot of traction. From 1915 to 1930, they tenfold grew. Crazy growth, crazy growth. Companies don't grow like this anymore, at least that we see on a regular basis. But something really good happened here. They caught on to something. But then something happened. And they peaked out. They went from 1,600 to 4,500 in 20 years. Part of that was strategy. Most of it was simply a failure to have a strategy. Here's what they looked like in 1936. Wouldn't it be great to get 7-cent butter? But you'll see they're using brand names here as well, which was something that didn't exist either. So they really were revolutionizing that industry. Sky is falling, they're dropping, they're still around. 2010, bankruptcy. Oh, that's a bummer. Last week they emerged from bankruptcy. Good for them. They sold off a whole bunch of assets though. So there are, I think there's less than 338 now. But they emerged, they're surviving. But they're certainly not the same company at this point that they once were. So there's your quick history lesson of A&P. So we saw that there was something good that happened here, something really good. They grew like gangbusters. It was crazy. So what was the thing that was good that happened? They caught a trend in the American consumer before any of their competitors. They caught it and they rode it to prominence. Let's talk about what that trend was. Individually packed foods. They were the first company to use plastic wrap. So plastic was invented. They said, why don't we, instead of selling stuff from these barrels and giant containers of food, I know it's crazy that just like a little over 100 years ago, we were buying our food out of barrels. But A&P started selling individually packed and branded food. So 8 o'clock coffee. Anybody drink 8 o'clock coffee on a regular basis? No? How are your bowels? It's not the same brand anymore. But 8 o'clock coffee began as an exclusive brand of A&P supermarkets. And then they sold it as they were plummeting down to earth. Women's Day magazine. Anybody a regular reader of Women's Day? That's okay. But Women's Day magazine started as an exclusive A&P magazine brand. So this was the first time there was real branding of a product. When you went to the store and you bought coffee, you went and you asked for coffee. And you got it out of the barrel, and that's what you got. But brands allowed us to differentiate between different products and the different qualities of products, or at least gave us the, back in that day, it was more the illusion of product quality than actual product quality, but that's another story in their history. So what was the bad thing that happened? Because they grew like gangbusters. They were the biggest company in the US. Then they just sort of fell flat. So what they did was they missed a change, and a massive change. They missed it completely. So we saw the size of their stores. They were really tiny, and they had a lot of them all over the place. So you would have your local A&P. They were so like personalized that the nickname for the company was Grandma. It was Grandma A&P. Well, they missed a change in the consumer sentiment. What was this big change? The automobile. The automobile actually, so Henry Ford, he didn't mean to change the grocery business, but he did. Because I can now carry more than a bag back home, or more than what my arms can carry back home. I can put it in the trunk of my car. I don't have to shop at the local place anymore. I can go find the cheapest prices. I can go find the best quality. A&P missed it. They missed it. So as the automobile became ubiquitous, consumers wanted larger stores with a greater selection, lower prices. They could go further away, and they could carry more. So A&P lost its relevance. That was one of the shifts. There were a couple others in there as well that they missed. But the sad thing is, they still haven't recovered. They're still around today. They still haven't recovered from the birth of the automobile. You've had plenty of time, but they still haven't recovered from that. So are there changes right now? So we're gonna take a look at A&P as sort of a framework of how business happens. Because this is what's happening all the time. Businesses are being born. they experience massive growth, and then they die. Why? So are there changes happening right now that could have similar consequences on your business? Either for your business positively, you catch on to the trend first and you ride it to success, or your competitor does and you fail. Or you languish for, 60, 70 years. Yeah, absolutely there are. There are huge things that are changing right now. And if you haven't picked up on at least a few of these at this point, you haven't been awake during the conference. Social media, it's allowing consumers to interact with our brand whenever, wherever, in real time. And if you're not interacting with them, they're interacting with your other consumers. Other people who want to hear about your company, either positive or negative. What else is happening? Data that we have on our consumers, it's being connected with external data. There's all sorts of data all around. Some of it we can just freely tap into. And it's being connected with the data we have on our customers. So we connect the external data with our own data, and we start to get a fuller understanding of consumers. If you're not doing this, one of your competitors may be. And if they're not yet, they will be. Let's keep talking. What else is happening? Our competitors are utilizing some crazy thing called big data. Big data. They're driving increases in profit faster than we are, which is a problem, undeniably. We do have something big. We have big frustration at our company. It's not just us. Our customers have it too, especially when they're talking to us. We hire the best and the brightest, and yet somehow we don't know nearly as much as we could from our best and brightest. So we're not capturing the knowledge of the people that we're spending money on for knowledge. That's why we hire people, because they know things, or we can teach them things. Well, guess what? They can teach us stuff too. And if we're not capturing that information, our competitors may be or will be. So there are some trends that are happening. Now, times of change can be awesome. They can be the best times for a company. On the other hand, times of change can absolutely destroy a company. We've seen a few of those happen recently. Welcome to a time of change. We're here. This is today. Things are changing all around us. Now, we can play Chicken Little and say the sky is falling and do nothing about it, or we can make changes. So what are the changes? Well, we want to stay in business. Poor Borders. They had a bigger competitor that did what they did better. They got onto the tablet market late. They didn't actually get onto the tablet market. They bought into the tablet market. So they were using Kobo. Who knows what Kobo is? I didn't until I was checking them out before they failed. It was a bad business move, and all related to the changes in technology. Oh, and our employment numbers are awful right now. So the people that normally buy our products, they're out of work if we're on the consumer side. And this is, it maybe not getting better, but this has been happening, and it does affect our companies. It affects the profit margins, and it can affect what we can do and achieve because we're so constrained in our resources. Anyone feel constrained in their resources? Yeah, maybe. Come on, you all are flush with cash right now? What are companies working for? This little thing, the smartphone, makes things interesting because my consumers can rate my company on the fly when they're next to my company. Oh, and other consumers, when they're looking for a category, they can find all my competitors and evaluate all the competition within the couple block radius. So they're in buying mode. They go to Yelp or one of the other apps that are out there, and they go, all right, well, I need a TV. Who's good with TVs? Well, not that company, not that company. Oh, look at that. People like them. I'm going to go to them. That's a huge change. Think of how much resources it would have taken to get that type of information in the past. It certainly wasn't at your fingertips, that's for sure. So this little thing has changed a lot. Also, the iPad, or tablets in general, and the ubiquity of Wi-Fi. I mean, it's not as ubiquitous as it is in some other areas, like Asia, where you can get Wi-Fi pretty much anywhere. But we can always go into a Starbucks, be named Lily, and hold our iPad upside down and get free Wi-Fi. There are some limitations with using open source images. Oh, and there's like 1 trillion sites and social connections sites that we can utilize. And what does our company utilize? What are our consumers utilizing? All of this breeds a whole lot of change and confusion. So what are our next steps? What's the practical advice here? What's the get part of this? We have to understand at least the key trends that are coming in the near future that are already available. Things that are available now but are in their infancy. Why do we need to understand this? Because our competitors are trying to understand this. And if they wrap their heads around it faster than you, what does that mean for your business? Could be disastrous. Social CRM. There's one we haven't heard yet in this conference, I don't think. Social CRM. So our sales systems, when we move them to a social CRM model from a regular CRM model, so our CRM model, we have data about our customers, and we manage that data. And we create new data as we interact. Social CRM kind of flips that a bit, where we're also including publicly accessible data about our customers, and we're interacting with them in whatever channel they are already in. So we may not have the phone number for somebody, but maybe we have their Twitter handle, and we can interact with them for sales in that manner. Or maybe we don't have their phone number or their email, but we know that they're connected to our Facebook fan page. We can communicate with them in that channel. We can know a lot of information through bringing together our sales systems and social processing. Next one up is, well, okay, everybody's talking about big data and social CRM and all these really cool, amazing things. Let's go back a couple years. Collaboration is still on the table. Collaboration, it may seem quaint to some at this point, but let's move away from the sexy technologies and talk about what we know is working right now. Collaboration we know is working. If you haven't seen the McAfee AIIM white papers, download them. The results of them are drastic with the use of collaborative technologies. So if you're not using these in your company right now, fix it. Go. Do something about it. And if you don't believe me that you should, go read the white papers. And then you'll come back and go, all right, I need to do something about it. So internal collaboration is still a major opportunity. Why? Because not everyone has done it, and those that have done it haven't always done it well. So our competition, we still have an opportunity to get a leg up on them. Big data. Big data is coming. It is here. It is ready. It sounds like a supervillain, like Big Data versus Godzilla. Big data. As social CRM aims to get a fuller picture of our individual customer behavior, yeah, I'm having some fun. Big data can give us a broader perspective by leveraging the wealth of information that we capture to identify the meta themes that give us deep insight into what's happening in the marketplace. Not only our own data, but we can pull in publicly accessible data. We can purchase data from others. Think companies aren't doing that? The second you hit any website, chances are you're losing a good amount of data. You're giving it up, and other companies are purchasing that. What else is happening? The ubiquity of mobile. We talked about that a little bit already, but because of the ubiquity of mobile, our consumers have access to multi-channel communication at their fingertips 100% of the time. That's a bit different. Multi-channel communication at their fingertips at all times. We need to understand how that affects our business. Voice recognition. Okay, voice recognition, not anything new. Voice recognition has been around for decades. It's just been awful. Sorry to those of you that have done voice recognition for decades, but let's be serious. 80% accuracy is simply unacceptable. But we're seeing the consumerization of voice recognition. We haven't quite seen the enterprise version of this yet. We'll get there. All right, so where are things going? Let's give a couple of case studies. Imagine an effective call center where the information management system is actively listening to our conversation. I'm in a call center. I'm speaking with a customer service rep. The information system is listening to the conversation and automatically providing me relevant information as I'm talking. Think this is far away? Think again. This isn't sci-fi anymore. The technologies exist. No one's put them together yet. Providing the service rep real-time information as you're talking. No need to be put on hold. The information's coming to them. So, can I have your name and social security number? All right, hold for 20 minutes while I look up your information. No, we don't need to do that anymore, or we won't in the near future. Imagine your salespeople being armed with sentiment analysis about how their prospect's day is going before they pick up the phone to make a call. That data is available. It's on there in Twitter. I'm going to tell you if I'm having a bad day. You're going to know. The sentiment analysis is there. Also, we can do sentiment analysis across large swaths of people that have similar properties, and we learn more. That's big data usage in action. Imagine, for instance, just as an example, an oil well that collects data automatically and leverages that data along with the information from many other oil wells to identify potential issues before they happen. Think that'd change things? I think it'd change things really a whole heck of a lot for a couple of regions in the US if that existed, 2 years ago. All right, where are things going? Here are the three that I see, and I'm going to leave a giant gaping hole called the cloud because Chris O'Reilly's coming on after me, and he's going to talk about that. So I'm going to leave that one on the table. All right, if you want more cloud, you're going to get plenty of it next. ECM plus voice recognition. Imagine an intelligent enterprise content management platform that's listening to you as you speak and providing you with the answers you need in real time. The technology is there, it just hasn't been implemented yet. The pieces are there. Collaboration beyond the firewall. Now, we've seen a couple of forays into this. Small companies like Threadless, where they're collaborating with their consumers to develop better products. There hasn't been a whole heck of a lot of it yet, though. I think we're going to see a lot more of it moving forward. And then the last piece that I think is the game changer. This is the big one that's coming. This is the giant wave that's going to wash away the companies that don't deserve to be around anymore. I said it. Social CRM plus big data. Pulling together vast swaths of data and leveraging those swaths of data in conjunction with our sales systems so that the real-time data is available to be used for a sales system. Doesn't exist yet. I don't know how long this one is away from us, but it's coming. Right now, big data is just too difficult to use, but it's going to get more and more consumerized as we go. So what's my practical advice? Go ahead and fail. Oh, okay, not quite. Let me put it a different way so I can explain what I mean by that. Failing companies are afraid to fail. Companies that are afraid to fail are the ones that fail. Bizarre, right? Successful companies embrace failure. They build it into their culture. They say, you know what? We're going to have a certain amount of things that we're going to try that are going to be awful. But that's okay, because occasionally we're going to get it right, and when we get it right, it's going to be worthwhile, and it's going to make up for all of the extra failure. Let's talk about this little company, tiny little company called Google. This is a company that gets it. They're all about failure. They are in the business of failure. So in 12 years, this is the Next Web, an infographic by them. It's great. They launched about 251 public products. Of those, 90 of them were canceled. Out of the 251, 9 of them were major standalone products, and those failed. Google fails 36% of the time. 36% of their products are awful or are never adopted. People don't like them. Remember Google Wave? I was like the one guy that was like, oh, that's so cool. But if Google is all about failure and they're succeeding, what does that mean for us? We have a choice, and we have to make a choice. Adopt, extend, reach the limits of what we can do, and embrace failure. Embrace the fact that we are going to fail at several of these things as we reach forward into the future. And that's okay. Or we accept failure because our competitors are going to be the ones that are adopting, extending, and embracing failure. Here's a great quote by the man who destroyed A&P inadvertently, Henry Ford. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. Failure is all about learning so that we can do it better the next time. Thank you.